The epidemic coronavirus, officially called COVID-19, is very bad news. It was officially identified as a new virus only about a month ago, but it has already infected over 660,000 people and killed over 33,000 of them worldwide. Different sources estimate the mortality rate of COVID-19 at roughly 2 to 3%, but that could change as the virus rages on. Of course, the world has been through other outbreaks that were much worse. For instance, the Spanish flu of 1918 infected an estimated 500 million people and killed at least 50 million worldwide. Now, weighing the impact of one virus against another isn't exactly an apples to apples comparison. All sorts of variables are involved, including the mode of transmission, host events mechanisms, and even the weather plays a factor. Still, it's informative to put the current danger in some sort of perspective. So to that end, let's take a look at 10 other viruses that in their own way are more dangerous than COVID-19. Number 10. Hepatitis. Viral hepatitis caused an annual of 1.34 million deaths worldwide as of 2015. While deaths due to other infectious diseases have declined, deaths due to viral hepatitis has actually increased by 22% since 2000, according to a report by the World Health Organization, also known as WHO. Although there are 5 types of hepatitis that exist, including hepatitis A, D, and E, hepatitis B and hepatitis C are responsible for 96% of all related deaths. Most of these deaths are due to chronic liver diseases and primary liver cancer. Approximately 325 million people, or 4.4% of the entire world's population, has viral hepatitis, and 1.75 million new infections of hepatitis C alone occur each year. Despite there being a vaccine for both hepatitis B and C, very few people with this disease are able to get a diagnosis because of the limited access and affordable hepatitis testing. According to the WHO, only 9% of people who have hepatitis B and 20% with hepatitis C have received a diagnosis. Consequently, treatment reaches only a small fraction of those who are affected. Number 9. MERS. COVID-19 isn't the only coronavirus in town these days. Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, MERS, is caused by a rare deadly coronavirus mostly found in Saudi Arabia. According to the WHO, since it was first identified in 2012, MERS has affected 2,500 people and caused 861 deaths globally. Clearly, that's a small fraction of the numbers reported for COVID-19, but the real difference is the mortality rate. MERS has a mortality rate as high as 37.2%, compared with current estimated mortality rate of 2 to 3% for COVID-19. That's a big difference. Similar to COVID-19, infections from MERS show symptoms of fever, cough, and shortness of breath. However, unlike COVID-19, MERS infection can often stem from camels. Although most human cases of MERS infections have been attributed to human contact, current scientific evidence suggests that dormitory camels are a major reservoir host to MERS. No vaccine or special treatment is currently available for MERS, but some are in development. And if you think that one's so deadly, just wait till you see number 4. Number 8. Lassa Fever virus. Discovered in 1969 in Lassa, Nigeria, this pathogen causes hormonic fevers and multi-organ failure. Mortality due to the virus is high and ranges from 15 to 50%, with the deaths typically due to vascular collapse. In areas where this virus is endemic, asymptomatic infections is common. The virus is most commonly transmitted by exposure to urine and infected small rodents called mastomys in food and water sources. The disease can also be spread through inhalation of air contaminated with infected rodent secretions. Specifically, airborne transmissions may occur during cleaning activities such as sweeping and other such actions. The antiviral Ribavirin can help if given early enough. Furthermore, hyperimmune serum derived from survivors can also be of benefit. Currently, there are no vaccinations for this virus. Number 7. Rabies. While rabies certainly isn't the most widespread infection on this list, it holds distinction of being nearly 100% fatal if left untreated. The virus is found worldwide in more than 150 countries and territories. Rabies infections cause tens of thousands of deaths globally, mostly in Africa and Asia. The incubation period is generally 2 to 3 months. The initial symptoms are fevers, pain, tingling and prickling, or even paresthesia. Fatal inflammations of the brain and spinal cord usually develop as the virus progresses to the central nervous system. Humans infected with rabies may exhibit one of two forms of the disease, furious rabies or paralytic rabies. With furious rabies, may exhibit signs of hyperactivity, excitable behavior, hydrodromia, and aerophobia, with death occurring after a few days due to cardiorespiratory effect. Those with paralytic rabies, which accounts for 20% of all human cases, gradually become paralyzed starting at the wound site. Following a coma, death eventually occurs. Dog bites are the most common cases of infections, followed by bats. Immediately after a bite, rabies shots are curative. Additionally, after contact with a rabid animal, it's important to wash the wound with soap and water, as infections usually occur upon the exposure of mucous membranes to saliva. Number 6. Japanese Encephalitis virus. This virus is the most frequent cause of the epidemic viral encephalitis in several countries across Asia, with an estimated 68,000 clinical cases annually according to the WHO. In fact, 24 countries in the WHO, in the Southeast Asia and Western Pacific regions, have epidemic Japanese encephalitis virus transmission, putting over 3 billion people at risk for the infection. Symptoms include fever, neck rigidity, altered states of consciousness, headaches, tremors, incarnations, and convulsions. Not only is the death rate of this disease extremely high at 30%, but also 30 to 50% of survivors. But about 30 to 50% of survivors experience serious neurologic and psychotantric sequels. This disease is spread to humans by infected mosquitoes of the Culex species that live in Asian rice fields. An inactivated vaccine does exist for the protection against this virus, and mosquito protection is recommended among those at high risk of exposure. Because no antiviral therapy yet exists for the infected patients, treatment is only symptomatic. Number 5. Ebola. Right now, the Democratic Republic of Congo is fighting the world's second largest Ebola epidemic on record. As of this video, 2,249 people have died, and 3,432 have been infected since the outbreak was declared in August 2018. Ebola is rare and has a high mortality rate of around 50%. The 2014-16 outbreak in West Africa was the largest Ebola epidemic to occur. 28,610 people were infected, and over 11,000 died. No proven treatment has been able to stop the virus, but a number of blood transplants and drug therapies are in development. Experimental vaccines have been shown to help control the spread of Ebola outbreaks in Guinea and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Number 4. HanTara Virus. In 1993, an outbreak of HanTara Virus occurred in New Mexico and Arizona. This influenza-like disease is followed by acute respiratory failure. Deer mice serve as reservoirs for the virus, with exposure and transmissions possibly via inhalation of deer mice, urine, and feces. Although it's pretty rare, the virus may be transmitted if a rodent with the virus bites a human. This puts hikers and campers at the greatest risk. Fortunately, this virus is not spread via human-to-human contact. Early symptoms of the infection include fatigue, fever, and muscle aches. Late symptoms, about 4 to 10 days following the inhalation phase, include coughing and shortness of breath. Because people don't have the antibodies of the virus, symptomatic infections are the norm, with a mortality rate of 38%, according to the CDC. However, survival outcomes may be improved by early disease recognition and receipt to medical care, including oxygen therapy for several respiratory illnesses. And if you think these are bad, just wait till you see number 1. Number 3. HIV and AIDS. By the end of 2018, approximately 37.9 million people worldwide were living with HIV. In that year, over 770,000 people died from HIV-related causes, and 1.7 million people were newly infected. Since the virus was first discovered, more than 32 million people worldwide have died as a result of HIV. Although it continues to be a major global public health issue, HIV infections have become a manageable chronic health condition, enabling people living with HIV to lead long and healthy lives. For instance, 62% of adults and 54% of children living with HIV in low and middle income countries are now receiving antiretroviral therapy, which has become a primary treatment for this disease. More good news. New HIV infections fell by 37% and HIV-related deaths dropped by 44%, between 2000 and 2018, with an estimated 13.6 million lives saved due to the antiviral therapy. This achievement was a result of great efforts by the national HIV programs, supported by civil society and international development partners. Despite the good news, now is not the time to become complacent. Over the estimated 1.1 million Americans living with HIV in the U.S., about 14%, or 1 in 7 of them, don't know they need to be tested. Meanwhile, more than 38,000 new HIV infections occur in the United States each year. Number 2. Marburg Virus. Both the Ebola and Marburg virus are a member of the filovirus family and are characterized by hemorrhagic fever. Other symptoms include fever, headache, sore throat, malaise, epigastric pain, vomiting, and diarrhea. In 1967, the Marburg virus was discovered to cause human illness by researchers in Marburg, Germany, following exposure to green monkey epidemic in Uganda. Bats are thought to be the natural carrier for this virus, but this hypothesis hasn't been confirmed yet. The mortality rate for Marburg virus is as high as 90%, with infected people usually dying of bleeding into gastronomical tract and skin, shock, disseminated intravascular cognition, and multi-organ failure. No antiviral therapy or other vaccines exist for the Marburg virus today. And coming in at number 1, influenza. While COVID-19 has caught a great deal of fear and concern, there is a more widespread and more deadly virus going around. The flu. The flu causes about 3 to 5 million cases of severe illness and about 290,000 to 650,000 deaths each year. In the United States, at least 22 million people have gotten the flu in 2019 and 2020 seasons so far, and over 12,000 of them have died from it. While there's no treatment or yearly vaccine for the COVID-19 like there is for the flu, COVID-19 has warranted a high level of caution and extensive contamination procedures. And if the seasonal flu was given this much regard, many fewer people would die each year, experts say. Which disease are you most worried about? Let us know down in the comments. Please take precautions and stay home and wash your hands during this quarantine so we can stop the spread of the coronavirus. A great way of doing this is subscribing to Top 10 Owl so we can keep you entertained during quarantine.